Hello, welcome to Into the Fire, a Burning Coal Theater Company podcast series.
Hi, this is Jerome Davis. I'm the Artistic Director of Burning Coal Theater Company, and I'd like to welcome everyone to Into the Fire, the Burning Coal Theater Company podcast series on all things theatrical. We have a very special guest on the podcast today, the President and CEO of DHIC, Yolanda Winstead. Yolanda, thank you very much for joining us, and thanks for all that you have done for us over the years at DHIC.
No, well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
I wanted to talk with you on this podcast because we're about to do a play called Red Pitch, which is a new play, new to these shores. We are the second theater to produce it in the United States. Theater up in D.C. beat us by a couple of months, but nobody here has seen the play before, and so I wanted to start by saying just a little bit about what the play is about, and that will help to explain why we've invited you onto the podcast. Red Pitch, which is by a young British writer named Tyrell Williams, is about three young men, teenagers, who are on the cusp of adulthood and who dream of a career in professional football, or we would call it soccer. And so the pitch of the title is their playground where they play, and we're recreating that playground in the theater at Burning Coal for the production. But the play is very much about them, but it's also about gentrification and the encroachment of modernity on civilizations, and particularly urban ones where things change very rapidly, where buildings that have been around for the duration of a young person's life are gone overnight, and replaced with something entirely unrecognizable and not as meaningful in their lives. And so with that said, let me just ask you, Ms. Winstead, if you would, to tell us just a little bit about DHIC and what its work involves here in Raleigh.
Sure. So DHIC is a nonprofit organization. We are based here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we actually got our start in the mid-'70s during a period of time when the inner city or core neighborhoods in downtown Raleigh were suffering from disinvestment as a result of redlining and urban renewal and flight to the suburbs. So we really got our start helping folks that were living in substandard housing to, modernize their homes. That grew into building and developing single-family homes for sale, so helping folks get into home ownership in those same neighborhoods. Over time, we progressed to developing multifamily rental housing in the city of Raleigh using the low-income housing tax credit program. We actually, in fact, developed the very first low-income housing tax credit development here in the city of Raleigh, Jeffries Ridge, which we still own and operate today. Mm-hmm. That grew into moving outside of the downtown neighborhoods throughout Wake County. And then today we have communities across 9 counties in our state. We have about 54 communities. We're serving roughly 4,500 or so seniors, families, and individuals in our multifamily rental housing. In addition to providing high quality, safe, affordable multifamily housing, we are a HUD certified counseling agency. So we help folks who aspire to home ownership to get mortgage ready, learn about credit and budgeting, and doing financial coaching and financial literacy classes for folks so that they can be prepared to move on to home ownership and take advantage of programs that are available to low to moderate income first-time home buyers in the city and across the state as well.
Are those 9 counties all in central North Carolina?
So most of our communities are here in central North Carolina, but we also have communities. We have one in the western part of the state out in Cabarrus County. We have a property as far east as Pamlico County and Martin County. We're also in Pitt County. I'm probably going to forget one or two of them. Chatham County, Orange County. And we are actually working on our first community over in in Greensboro. We're spreading our wings a little bit, but trying to, be very deliberate about the communities we work in so that we can be close enough, to do a good job and be involved. But we primarily, most of our communities are located in Raleigh, Durham, and in this area.
It's astonishing. Greg Warren was the CEO, president and CEO when we first came to the Murphy School. Was he the founder of DHIC, or
he actually was the second leader of the organization.
Okay.
And so he was here with us for 35 years. He retired in 2020, and then I was fortunate enough to be selected to take over leadership here at the organization. So,
how long had you been with them when that happened?
So actually, I immediately before assuming this role here at DHIC, I worked for a for-profit developer for a few years as their vice president of finance, really leading their team doing underwriting and financial structuring. Prior to that, I spent 15 years working with a group called CAHEC, which stands for Community Affordable Housing Equity Corporation. They are a nonprofit tax credit syndicator, and I worked with developers throughout the Southeast, working with them to have CAHEC be the investor in their low-income housing tax credit communities. Prior to that, I actually worked here at DHIC, so I got my start here in affordable housing, working here at DHIC. For several years, first on the homeownership side of the house, and then I had the opportunity to move over as a project manager on multifamily development, and that was kind of how I started my career in this space.
These are extraordinary efforts and achievement, and usually those efforts, those kinds of efforts and achievements require very specific training and skills. Did you go to school for this, or is this something you fell into? Makes it sound less than deliberate, but did you happen upon it by chance, or did you want, as a young girl, did you want to
So I like to say that I kind of evolved into this. I was a business major in college. And my first job out of college was working with the North Carolina State Employees Credit Union as a loan officer. And it wasn't a very exciting job, but the one thing I really loved about it was helping folks get mortgages, helping state employees get mortgages and purchase homes.
Yeah.
And so doing that work actually led me to the opportunity to join DHIC as a housing counselor in the mid-90s. And so I realized that was really kind of part of my calling, was helping folks get into home ownership and have, the high quality housing. And so that kind of opened up the opportunity for me here to learn about real estate development, the low-income housing tax credit program, and other tools that we use to finance affordable housing. And so I spent about 6 years here and then moved on to the syndication side of the house and really got to learn the ins and outs of the financing and the different programs that are used to develop affordable housing in our country. And so it's just kind of been a progression from, building on the skills I learned at one place and leverage that to go in another little bit different direction, but stay in the same sphere.
DHIC is a nonprofit, and you said you had worked in the for-profit sector previously.
Yes. So
what are the differences? What are the challenges between one and the other?
One another? So I would say that the challenges are very similar, especially from a real estate development perspective. Even though DHIC is a nonprofit, the developing real estate, whether you're doing it as a nonprofit entity or for-profit, is very much the same. You're really trying to structure a financial transaction to deliver, the housing. And so you have the same challenges on both sides is to make a financially feasible transaction. I would say that when we say affordable housing in our world, we're talking about housing that's developed using a mix of public and private resources. So when you use the low-income housing tax credit program, That's a federal source that we use to leverage private investment. And so that also comes with a lot of regulations and compliance because it's actually an IRS program. And so, frankly, it's really, in my view and from my experience, a little more complicated developing affordable housing under that program than, say, just developing a market rate apartment community where you're just getting debt and equity to develop it and place it in service. And you don't have some of those regulatory things to think about and worry about. And you're not bundling together public and private resources that really have a much higher level of oversight when it comes to the fact that we're using public resources, comes with a whole nother governance structure. So that's kind of one difference.
Yeah.
I would say the other difference is there are a lot of for-profit developers doing this type of work as well. And so their business has kind of a mission slant to it as well because they're involved in affordable housing. But I think from a nonprofit organization's perspective, our real mission is the housing and the end user of that housing and helping, make people's lives better from that perspective. And so we don't have to make a profit necessarily, but we do need to generate revenue to sustain our organization and to make feasible transactions so that we can deliver that housing for those in need. On the for-profit side, I think, the fact that they do have to make a certain level of profit to have returns for whoever's investing in the for-profit business does have a little bit slightly different slant to it than kind of being mission focused and really being focused on our families that we're serving and trying to make their lives better and using housing as kind of the foundation for that.
I can't help as you talk of thinking of George Bailey. And,
it's a wonderful life.
Yeah. Do you ever think, by God, I'm the George Bailey of 2026? That does. I mean, it sounds like the exact same thing, just writ large.
I will say that, honestly, I have a wonderful, very talented and a team that I get to lead who do the lion's share of the work here. And I will say that for most of our staff, when you talk to them and you listen to them describe what they do and why they work here, it really is a calling for most of us, to be involved in this work because they have a skill set that they could, go work for some for-profit corporation somewhere and probably, make much more money than they do doing this, but they really committed to the work we do and to serving the community here. And because we all live here and we want to make our community a better place. So I guess we're all George Baileys here at DHIC.
Team of George Baileys. Well, that's good. We could use another 200 or 300 teams like that in our country. I guess the only other question that I was talking about, and this kind of leads into it, that I wanted to talk with you about is the issue of the theater here in the Murphy School apartments. DHIC left that building, that portion of the building, alone when it did the renovation back in, I believe it was 1991, maybe, when the apartments were made. And so from the history that I have been told, it was left for the purpose of one day being the home of a theater. Do you know enough about that part of the company's history to speak on what that decision was about?
I'll take a stab at it. So I think the thinking was always, again, as I mentioned, we're really viewing the housing that DHIC develops, owns, and operates as an asset for the community and a baseline for we're not just providing housing, but we're also offering, trying to create other opportunities to really help improve our community and the lives of folks we serve. So trying to preserve the theater for, to be used again as a theater and service to the community just kind of goes hand in hand with the redevelopment of the school into the apartments to serve the seniors, and to have a community asset there that we could make available that could continue to serve the community in the way it was originally intended.
Right, right. Well, it certainly has served us well over the last 18 years, and we're deeply indebted for it. DHIC, or as they were previously known, the Downtown Housing Improvement Corporation, in this case is not the owner of the building. The state still owns the building and leases it to the city, who leases it to DHIC, who leases it to us. So is that a normal structure, or do you mostly have autonomy over your space and don't have to worry about the state or the city looking over your shoulder?
So we do have, so in this particular community, you're correct that it is a ground lease, that state ground lease it to the city for the purpose of it being used to serve seniors and to provide affordable housing. And DHIC was selected to ground lease it from the city. And so we are required to make sure that the school continues to be used for affordable housing for seniors to stay in compliance with the terms of that ground lease. But there are also we have other properties where it's a ground lease situation where it's either a ground lease from the city. We have another development not far away where it's a ground lease from the city. But that ground lease is for a long enough term, and it's structured in a way that it gives our organization or the affiliate that we have that actually operates the community really the same leasehold rights to the property, so that we can still operate it in the fashion that we've agreed to and need to. And it's really just a way to ensure pretty much in perpetuity that property is used for its intended use. And it's actually quite common, more so now than it used to be, to do a ground lease situation. And then there's some times where real estate development's done with a ground lease that's even with a private individual. But we've got some properties that are ground leases with municipalities. But we own the vertical improvements and continue to operate them in compliance with the terms of those leases.
Right. Well, you're doing good work, and I guess I wanted to close with the question of whether you feel like do you feel like Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill, or do you feel like that there has been some success in terms of the kind of housing for the community? Our community is growing enormously, and so I could imagine one building housing, but still feeling like you're falling behind on it. Do you have a sense of that? Like, is the government, the federal and the state and the local governments, are they behind you? And do you feel like you're making headway here? There's kind of two parts, I think, to the answer to that question. For our organization, if you look at our history and how we got started, and that we started kind of in the core of the city, when folks didn't want to be in downtown and in those neighborhoods, right. And so they all went out to the suburbs. Well, now people want to be in downtown and in the inner city neighbors in the core city, and so we had the opportunity because of our commitment to kind of our original service area to develop communities in places here that, originally folks didn't flock to and didn't want to live in. And so now, as we have all these people kind of moving into the downtown neighborhoods, and we are seeing, some folks get displaced as other properties kind of get purchased, and the rents get increased. And so those folks can no longer stay. DHIC owns affordable communities and some pretty prime real estate now in the city of Raleigh, especially. And so we're fortunate that we are now, the worm is kind of turned, so to speak. And so we have, affordable housing available in some really sought after parts of the city now. And so we're fortunate that we are able to provide, have that resource for folks that they can remain kind of in these neighborhoods. To your point, a question about like losing housing stock and are we keeping up?
The short answer is no. We have a pretty large deficit of affordable housing. If you read any of the studies done, put out by the city and county and state level, and then we have so many folks moving here that again is putting additional pressure on our housing supply. I guess the good thing is that everybody recognizes the severity of the problem. And so we find, our local governments are really committed to trying to be part of the solution and creating opportunities for us to be able to try and, continue to add to that stock and also preserve the current stock, because we have some older properties that, we developed many years ago. And they've gone through kind of the tax credit cycle, and we've gone through that compliance period. The original investors exited, and we wholly control those. And our goal is to maintain those properties as high quality as possible in perpetuity as affordable housing, so that we don't lose the stock that DHIC's developed. And so we're doing this mix of trying to build new, while at the same time preserving, the properties we developed and owned all through the years.
Well, it seems from my vantage point that what you're doing is extraordinarily useful to the community, and I would encourage anyone and everyone who might be listening to this to celebrate DHIC, help them where you can, contribute to them where you can, and basically, be aware of what's going on in your community, and aware of who is or isn't supporting that in terms of elected officials, and vote accordingly. He said, not able to say any more than that. Ms. Winstead, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you again for everything you've done for Burning Coal, and DHIC has done for Burning Coal. And we look forward to more relationship down the road, and wish you best as we get ready for snowpocalypse.
Or ice-pocalypse.
Yeah, maybe. Let's hope it's the snow thing.
No,
anyway.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. It's been great talking with you.
It's my pleasure. Let us know how we can be of service down the road.
And the same here for you as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.